There are many ways you can use technology to improve the delivery of a course, to enhance the student experience and your own experience, and to identify new and creative ways to help students meet course learning outcomes. But where do you start? How much technology is too much technology? And once you've chosen the apps that you want to integrate into your course, how can you make sure that they'll mesh well together and that they'll support your course content? How do you find the sweet spot? My name is Tim Marshall, and I'm an assistant professor of digital marketing at Baldwin Wallace University. I'm going to walk you through a process I follow when I develop courses with multiple technology integrations. Educational technology is such a broad term that I like to break it down into 3 distinct subcategories, and I'm going to use this milkshake to help me do that. Heads up, there are many images of desserts and sweets in this presentation. After all, it's called Finding the Sweet Spot. Let's start with what I refer to as delivery technology. The delivery mechanism for this milkshake is the glass in which it's served. The delivery tech for your course, that's your learning management system. It could also be a video conferencing tool. Delivery tech is the need-to-have technology that we use to facilitate the course. On the other hand, supplemental technology is the nice-to-have tech. It's not needed, but it does enhance the experience. For example, you could drink this milkshake right from the glass, but having the straw helps, right? Similarly, your learning management system may offer several tools that enable you to create assessments. Supplemental tech can make those assessments a little bit more dynamic. For example, you could use the message board tool in your learning management system to create a discussion board, or you could use a third-party solution like Padlet or Flipgrid to make a more rich, visual, and interactive discussion board format. You could also use Edpuzzle and Kahoot instead of the quiz builder in your learning management system. Edpuzzle turns a YouTube video into a quiz, and Kahoot can create some fun and dynamic ways to produce assessments. Insert Learning is a tool that makes any web page into an interactive assignment. It's pretty common for you to assign an article for students to read and then maybe answer some questions about it and submit that assignment questions through your learning management system. But Insert Learning embeds the questions right on that page in addition to other activities. So supplemental tech, great to use, but it's not completely needed to use to facilitate the course. The third type of technology that we can integrate into our classroom, discipline-specific technology. So anything that's related to your professional area. I teach digital marketing, so my students are working with social media management platforms, customer databases. So anything that's important for your students to know when they enter the field. Now let's look at 3 types of courses. This is helpful if you're trying to revise and evaluate courses that you've taught in the past, or if you're trying to launch a new class, something you've never taught before. Different courses integrate technology differently, and it's important to know what type of course you've created. We'll start with what I refer to as the lollipop course. Think about what a lollipop is. It's pretty much 2 parts, right? We have our disposable paper stick, and then we have the candy, the fun part, the good part of the lollipop. Well, that disposable stick, that's our delivery technology. The candy is our course content, the course material. Think about the relationship between these 2 things. The delivery tech, it's disposable and completely separate from the course content. Students consume your course content, but the delivery tech doesn't really do anything other than facilitate the classroom experience. That's why delivery tech in this type of course should be relatively easy for students to use. It shouldn't require a lot of onboarding for them or setup for you. It has a very short shelf life. In fact, it doesn't live beyond the course. So you want to make sure that this tech is easy to use, but also understand that the technology involved in the class only delivers the course. It doesn't help students really learn. We'll look at the donut course. Now, donut courses are kind of fun and exciting. These are courses that use a lot of different types of supplemental technology. Think about it. This donut probably tastes a whole lot better with those sprinkles and that glaze on it than it would without, right? But there's something missing from a donut, a core, a center. So we have a lot of supplemental tech apps in use, but they're not really speaking to the course learning outcomes. They're really not connected to the overall point of the course. Then we have wedding cake courses or tiered cake courses. This is where we kind of see our academic programs. We can view our academic programs like this on screen, this culinary masterpiece that you see before you. I see something that sort of reminds me of Bloom's taxonomy, where we have a foundation of new knowledge and new concepts, and we're creating opportunities or tiers for students to apply and analyze that information, and then poise them to be able to create and produce and evaluate using that information. Now think of all the behind-the-scenes processes that had to take place in order for you to see this finished product of this tiered wedding cake. All of the seemingly random ingredients that had to be treated and stored separately, all of the exact measurements that had to be used in order to create what you see before you. The sponge of the cake was created in one part of the kitchen, the frosting and decorations were created in another, and it probably took a lot of time to put this together. An effective course that integrates multiple technology solutions is time-consuming to plan, but there is quite a payoff. If we slice into any type of layer cake like that, we can consider that slice to be an individual course in a student's academic program. That base layer of the cake is the sponge. You'll introduce some new course content at the start of the semester, and then introduce technology solutions to enable students to apply that new information. That prepares them for additional course content, more sophisticated concepts later on in the semester. Then we either introduce new technology or we use the same technology that was introduced earlier on in the course, but in new ways, perhaps more advanced ways. And think about a cake. It's wrapped in frosting. Frosting is the delivery tech for the course, but it's also consumed. It's an enjoyable part of the experience. Technology is the glue that holds the course content together. So slice of a layer cake as part of that larger tiered cake, that's what we aspire to when we plan a course. On to planning a course, I think it's important to always begin with the end of that course in mind. In other words, you want to start by focusing on your course learning outcomes. Don't worry, pictures of cakes and sweets will come back later in the presentation, I promise. But think about the fact that most courses are between 8 and 16 weeks long and maybe only have 4 to 6 different course learning outcomes. When you want to integrate technology solutions, it's helpful to plan at a more granular level. That's why I like to break course learning outcomes down into individual modular learning outcomes. To do this, you can employ a process called backward course design. I'll share a template in some resources that I'll show you at the end of the presentation. With backwards course design, you take your list of course learning outcomes, then you take a list of the modules or weeks in the course. You look at week 1 and see how close to the course learning outcomes does the end of week 1 get you. How do you slowly chip away at those course learning outcomes in that week, in week 2, in week 8, in week 9, and so on. Backward course design helps you identify the right assessments, activities, readings, and other important aspects of the course that need to be considered for each module outcome to ultimately contribute to those course learning outcomes. This helps you plot when and where you're using different technology solutions. For example, maybe you want students to use a specific app to complete an assignment in week 4. That means in week 3, you might assign them a project in which they have to create an account on that app. Or maybe you include onboarding information in your syllabus or your Start Here folder. Once you've figured out the when and why you want to introduce technology into a course, you get to do the fun part. You start shopping for apps, shopping for technology solutions. But I suggest you start internally first. Reach out to your campus IT department, your campus educational technology department or center for teaching. There could be institutional partnerships with a variety of ed tech apps that you're just not aware of. You want to leverage those partnerships. One of the reasons why those partnerships are important is they can assist in the implementation of that technology and the integration of it in your course. Often, institutional partnerships mean that students can use the same credentials they use to log into the learning management system to log into the app. So it's great when single sign-on is an option. Many supplemental tech tools do require account setup for both the faculty and the students, so a partnership that has single sign-on eliminates that step. You also want to understand the pricing tier of that institutional partnership. Most technology solutions are offered on a subscription basis, and the subscription levels vary. Your institutional partnership might involve the perfect or the right subscription plan for your needs in your course, or it could be limited. And if there's no institutional partnership with the tool that you want to use, you have to look at potentially paying this for yourself, or paying this from your department, or using the free version. A lot of these tools have that freemium level of access. You don't have to pay, but you have limited access to. So it's really important to understand the pricing models. If the freemium level of access only gives you so many uses of an app, say you use a tool and for free students can submit app assignments through it 3 times over the course of the semester, then you can't assign them to use it 5 times. So understand the pricing, understand the details that come with that partnership. Then we have to figure out who is the help desk for an app that you're using. If you are using an app that has some partnership with your institution, the IT help desk, the folks in that department should be able to help you and your students. But most campus help desks only support applications that the IT department endorses. And that makes sense from a management point of view. It doesn't mean that you can't use other apps in your course. It just means that you might have to be the help desk for students that are having trouble or difficulty using that technology solution. If that's the case, you want to make sure that there's a help center on that application's website. You want to make sure that there's user manuals, other documentation, even user forums and discussion boards, and connect that information, connect those resources to your students. I'll give you a heads up that if you're interested in using a technology solution that has been produced by a startup company, there might not be a strong knowledge base on that company's website. They're new, they probably haven't had the customers, enough customers to generate a support center on their site. So just think about that when you're planning to integrate a course. If students need help, who can help them? You should also think about how often an app will be used in a course. I'm looking at using a tool, the freemium level of which will enable me to create 5 different assignments for my class, but I have to create an account on that tool. I have to build a class on that tool, almost use it like a secondary learning management system, and students need to create an account to use it. So I'm planning on using that app as much as I can, all 5 times. That's a lot of onboarding. So if you're trying to find a technology solution for just one assignment, if there's too much onboarding, it's probably not going to be worth it. You might want to look for an easier to implement solution. I also think it's great when an app you choose could be used in the future by students. Now, career-specific technology or discipline-specific technology certainly will, but I like to connect other courses to tools that I use if there's a nice connection. In a marketing class the other day, I used a tool from the US Census Bureau that business owners can work with to determine where they should launch a business. Works with a lot of census and demographic data. But you could use that in a course in political science or sociology or even geography. So I like to make students aware that I'm teaching you technology for this course, but it could benefit you in other ways as well. It's also important to know how an app is delivered. Is there a website that the students would have to log into? Is there a smartphone app that they can use instead or in addition? You want to know that total landscape. Think about your learning management system. Many of you may use Student Preview to double check that an assignment is available or to see what students see. But the caveat is that all Student Preview shows you is what a student would see in the LMS if they were using your device, your computer, your size screen, and your web browser. A student could be accessing the LMS from a smartphone app. So when you assign some sort of technology to use in a course, you might want to be specific. You might tell students to use one version over another, or you might say that your demonstrations, your knowledge-based materials, your screenshots show the web-based version, but the smartphone app is available for their use as well. I like to think about the level of admin access that a tool gives me. This would let me build a class, log in, and see when my students have last accessed a tool. Basically, I like apps that mirror my learning management system. I like having that level of classroom management access to the tools that we use. Not every app will provide that for sure, but the ones that do, you may find offer a lot of value to you. On the other hand, those admin access platforms can be somewhat cumbersome and require a lot of onboarding. So you have access to a lot of features, but they may not be the most intuitive. And I also like to think about security. Cybersecurity is such an important topic on college campuses around the world right now. How secure is the tool that students will be using, particularly if they have to create a username and password? You might want to reach out to your campus help desk and ask for some best practices information on storing passwords and credentials, and then share that information with your students. Some apps provide a wealth of user data to the faculty member and to the students. We're a Panopto campus, and I really like that I can see how many minutes of a video a student has watched. So if I post a lecture video, I can see who's watched it, who hasn't watched it. It gives me a good idea of planning future videos. What do students seem to respond better to? That data is really helpful. You may also find in the delivery tech that there are analytics and tracking mechanisms that you're not using. We're a Blackboard campus, and I tend to enable tracking and statistics with different Blackboard items, especially if I'm not posting an assessment to Blackboard, but rather some reading material. I want to see that students have accessed that information. All right, now let's talk about partnering with others. Collaboration often brings integration with it. First, we'll start with partnering with big education, partnering with corporate. So this is when an application developer, some big name in the ed tech world, or maybe even in your discipline or your profession, wants to work with you and your students. I hate to be negative here, but sometimes partnerships with big players in the ed tech world really look like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You want to make sure that this is an experience that you'll benefit from, the students will benefit from, or is this a situation where the company is just looking for free beta testers? Now, these types of partnerships can look great in your promotion and tenure binder. If it's discipline-specific technology, the students will have an opportunity to stand out. They'll be using tools that their peers may not have had access to. You just want to make sure that there's something in it for everybody. I've also noticed that a sales rep that works for a big ed tech company might not truly understand university life. Once had the opportunity to use some technology in a course, but the offer was made week 12 of the 16-week semester, and the technology available would have been better suited to my third, fourth, and fifth module earlier on in the semester. And the sales rep didn't necessarily get my lingo talking about course learning outcomes and modules. When I'd asked if I could take advantage of this opportunity in the following term during the week 3, 4, and 5 of that particular semester, the rep passed. They were looking for data right away. So it would have been a good opportunity, but I was having a who's on first conversation using terminology that we take for granted. The sales rep might do a better job if they were more aware of how things work in higher ed. Sometimes an app developer will reach out to faculty members with an awesome opportunity. Here's this free technology at a wide level of service. Use it in your courses, develop curricula, develop lesson plans with it. And that's what we're doing in exchange for giving you this technology. That looks great in your binder. It's an exciting opportunity for students. But if you're not in that type of an arrangement and you're using tech, what curricula does exist? If they're not basically hiring you to do that, do you have to come up with lesson plans and curricula anyway? Or is there an existing curriculum? I'm a little spoiled. I work closely with the HubSpot Educational Partnership Program, discipline-specific tech for the digital marketing field, but they understand higher education. They provide a wealth of lesson plans and other resources that I can modify or use as is in my classes, but I know not every technology provider is like that. Lastly, it's really important to understand what the company is expecting from you in terms of reporting. If this is an opportunity for the company to beta test some new technology with faculty and students, how do they want that documented? Will it be a simple conversation or focus group discussion at the end of the semester? Do they want you to log how the technology was used? You want a clear understanding of that early on in the partnership. Again, not trying to be negative. These can be amazing experiences. You just want to make sure that these experiences will benefit you and the students. Let's talk about embedding certifications and credentials. Now, an example of this would be an accounting course that teaches how to use spreadsheets. So Microsoft Office's Excel certification is part of the course. I do this with a lot of digital marketing certifications too. It's great when there's some sort of learning management system connection between that third party and your institution, but often that's not possible. These certifications tend to deal with discipline-specific technology, and it can be hard to embed that into the LMS at a systematic level. So you may find that you're using the actual third-party software to verify completion, almost like a secondary learning management system for your course. A lot of certificates just award a student a credential if they get a high enough percentage on an exam. So you need to think about what's important to you. Do you need access to their test scores, or do you just need proof that they completed the credentialing program, that they completed the certification? You also need to understand that when you embed these third-party programs, they can make changes at any time. Integrating these into your courses tend to involve Frankensteining their curriculum and yours. So what happens when they completely redo their curriculum? Well, you'd have to redo your course. So you just want to forecast or have some sort of heads up from the provider about those expected changes. Lastly, I want to talk about a creative way to partner with another institution. Now, this is a specific type of collaboration. I'm at a four-year university and set up a program with a counterpart at a different campus. We wanted students to take a course at each of our universities, but work together on a project. So they'd enroll on my campus in one course, they'd enroll on their campus in another course, but they would work together. There's a ton of LMS restrictions. We're using Blackboard, they were using Canvas, so that's a challenge. Plus there's all the FERPA considerations. I really don't need to have access to the other institution's student data likewise. But we wanted to create a collaborative experience where students from different programs have the opportunity to work together. Our solution for this, I would use my LMS to track student grades and track student performance from my campus. My counterpart would use their LMS for the same purpose. But where the magic happened, the delivery tech involved was Basecamp, a project management and collaboration tool. It was a third-party solution. We each had to use our LMS, but we were able to find technology where students could truly collaborate together. And they could do that with a different login. It was a different environment, but it was worth that onboarding. So that is a suggestion for anybody looking to partner with other universities to use your own LMS, but involve a third party. Some key takeaways when we seek to integrate technology solutions into a course: we want to make sure that the tech will provide efficient delivery. Doesn't take a lot of onboarding, still serves an important role. That can enhance our experience and the experience of the students, of course, and also contributes to the course learning outcomes. So what's the sweet spot? It's when we can check off all three of these boxes. Some resources for this presentation are available at the following quick link. You can go to bit.ly/suite-tech. I'll link to a backward course design map. I'll link to an app inventory worksheet that walks you through some of the questions that we addressed. I'm also happy to be a resource to you as well. Feel free to reach out to me via email or connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you again for your time in reviewing this presentation. I hope that you were able to take some information from it that you can apply to a current course or when evaluating and revising an existing course.